Hey, hi guys, how you doing today? Hope everyone's doing okay. So today's main discussions and video is based on how to create your test data. So what are test data? So basically, when you have to test a particular function, you need to have the right data that would enable that function to display the right behaviors that we expect from it. So for example, if you want to test a username in a on a system or login page. So you need to input those usernames for it to get an action or behavior that enable access into the account or particular system or an account or not. So, and from a testing perspective, test data is key because you need to be able to run and execute your test. Without the data, you cannot do any test. So test data is key, and this is normally done during the test um, analysis and the test design stage. Okay, so how do we actually create one? It's very simple. So a good example is from what we have on this slide here, which is to reset a password from a login page. Okay, so just imagine you're a user and you've locked your password and you need to reset it. Okay, so what do you do? So the requirement in this scenario is it accepts the screen itself and that password form on the screen accepts up to 10 alphanumeric characters. So alphanumeric characters A to Z and numbers 0 to 9. Okay, and according to the requirements, it accepts 10 alphanumeric characters in lowercase letters and with the above symbols. So how would you test this? Or how would you create a test data um, for this test? So simple. So first thing first is we know we need to have up to 10 alphanumeric characters. So what we'll do, for example, and we know what alphanumeric characters are and what symbols it allows. Okay, so what we'll do in this scenario is we know, okay, so for test data one, we can say, okay, we want to test with data A, A, B, C, and numbers 0, 1, 2. That makes these characters and symbols, the percentage. Sorry guys, a bit tricky to find my pen here. Then star, so that makes then star, then open bracket, and the full stop. I think that makes 10 characters. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. That makes 10 characters. Okay, so that's for test data one. You can see we've covered all the different combination of data that we could use for that test. And so for data two, you can expand on that. You could say, okay, let's start with between those alphanumeric characters. So let's start with, in this case, let's start with a number 9. Let's start with a number 3. Let's start with a number 2. Then let's mix it with some letters in lower cases. A, letter Z, letter D, so, and the symbols, asterisks. Okay, then closing bracket, so we should have 6, 8, then full stop, then open bracket. So we should have 10 characters there. Okay, so these two test data, as you can clearly see that we've captured the valid test data specific to this requirement. But as a tester, we have to think out of the box and think about those data that can actually trigger a problem or create the different response compared to what is expected in the requirements. Because as from a tester's perspective, your job is to find faults. So what we're going to do is we'll look at a scenario where if we enter a different data, what do we get? Okay, so that's what we'll do with test data free. So with test data free, we know it allows alphanumeric characters in lowercase letters. So what happens if we enter an uppercase letter? So let's say full stop here to differentiate the number, the test data number. So let's say if we start with uppercase Z, what do we expect here? If we maybe put in a space between the characters, so uppercase Z, then lowercase a, what do we expect? And then lastly, let's say put in a different symbol, which is good. Okay, so obviously this scenario would expect the test data to trigger a failure in this scenario. Okay, so can you come up with some test data yourselves? So see if you can expand on this test data and maybe come up with 2 or 3 more test data, and please do share, like, and comment as well. Okay, so it's a community. We'll keep growing, we'll keep learning from each other. I hope you've learned something here today. So like I said, test data is it's paramount to actually designing and creating your test. Without your test data, you can't actually run any test whatsoever. So it's key, and this is basically a simple way of how we can create one. Okay, so thanks. See you guys in the next video. Bye for now.